So for so long, I have wanted to talk about gender, like gender identity and gender expression, and I haven't been able to formulate an actual video. And this is probably not the first time I'm going to talk about this, but because of the tweets that I saw on Twitter, because that's where they are, and somebody just liked one of my replies as I'm recording this, but what I put on Instagram about like specifically how plastic surgery, like FFS is facial feminization surgery. Jeez. So like chiseling the jawbone, you know, getting your nose done, chiseling your whatever this is, head bone. I don't fucking know. But like, you know, chiseling your cheekbones and all that kind of stuff. And like all of that's facial feminization surgery. But even like getting breast implants and BBLs or just getting butt implants or silicone injections or any of that stuff, like, one, I am not condemning any of that. Like, I support people who want to do things, safely to their body, and appropriately, as in like the correct facilities. You know, I watch Botch, and one woman got like a liposuction by a gynecologist, and it's like, that's not okay. Don't do that. Don't take the cheap route. But like, I am a proponent. Like, if people want to get plastic surgery, get plastic surgery. I support that. Because ultimately people, and it's leading into like the small thread that I saw on Twitter, like it's gender affirming surgery. And for people who aren't, and I might have to do a different video about this, but people who don't know, gender affirming or confirming surgery is the terminology or the phrase that you would use in place of sex change or, sex reassignment surgery. That's not the language that's used when we're talking about trans people. But I mean, if there is a woman who's like, I have small titties and I want bigger titties because I feel like it'll make me feel more feminine and I'll feel more like a woman, like, is that not affirming your gender as a woman, although you're a cisgender woman? You know, I want to look more voluptuous. I want like all of these things. And I'm not going to say every single woman, cisgender woman who's getting any type of plastic surgery, whether it's injections or like going under the knife and under anesthesia or whatever, is, I'm not going to say I know your reasons, and I'm not going to say what those reasons are, but generally speaking, you know, getting enhancements to your body is affirming your gender. Like, when women are like, I love to put on makeup, it makes me feel so beautiful, it makes me feel like I'm the ultimate femininity, like that sounds gender affirming to me. And I just think that's really fascinating. But something that I wanted to talk about gender is that, like, oh wait, no, that's not even related to this. It's about gender and gender expression, but gender expression is one of my favorite things to talk about. Like, gender expression is essentially how we present and even perform our gender identity. So like the way we look, so hair, makeup, nails, mannerisms, even like the tone of our voice. There may be some women who talk a little bit higher like this, or some women who talk a little lower like this, intentionally, unintentionally, whatever. The way we dress, like, even down to gender roles, and like the behaviors and the roles and even the jobs we pick, right? If a woman's a lawyer, she may automatically seem like a little bit more powerful, more strong, more dominant, and maybe that equates to masculinity for some people. But if a woman is maybe like, I don't know, a nurse, which is seen predominantly as like a more feminine or more woman dominated field or job, you know, that's an example of like taking up a gender role, or taking up a gender role in terms of gender expression. Some of it's intentional, some of it's not. Like, there aren't women who are like, I'm gonna go be a lawyer because I want to be dominant. Sure, maybe, or I want to express masculinity through my, like, I don't think it's that that conscious of a decision for a lot of people. Maybe it is, I don't know, that's not a problem. But I just, like, reading that short thread, I was like, this makes so much sense. That's so true. And it reminded me of a different thread I saw on Twitter like some months ago, like several months ago, talking about how working out in the gym to like lose weight, gain muscle or, you know, muscle up or whatever is body modification, which I think is kind of related to this conversation too about like surgery and stuff. And like, again, I'm not condemning any of this. None of this is wrong. None of that is bad. Like, going to the gym to modify your body, because that's what's happening, you know, like our bodies don't naturally look super muscular. Our bodies don't naturally look, well, I guess whatever in relation to, and just like, I just find it really fascinating because it's like, we're thinking, it's just broadening what these words mean and what these phrases mean. So when we're talking about gender affirming or confirming surgery, it's always in reference to trans people. But again, for men who might get ab implants or pec implants or even liposuction, all that kind of stuff to look more masculine, like that seems pretty gender affirming. Now, gender dysphoria and euphoria, that's not what I'm referring to. That could be included in reasonings why people, you know, may do this kind of stuff, like plastic surgery, whatever, implants and stuff. But that's not necessarily only what I'm referring to. It could be referenced, but it's just in you know, in the fact that like, I'd like to have abs. So I'm going to go to Dr. whomever to have a consultation about getting some ab implants, excuse me, or pec implants or whatever. Yeah. And then the thing about body modification, it's like, I mean, ultimately it's just that there's such an aversion of being associated with or perceived to be trans. So at my job, you know, talking about pronouns, or even when I just talk to people about pronouns anyway, we often talk about like pronouns are important with trans people. Like, no, pronouns are important for every gender identity, every gender experience. Like, you're using she, her pronouns with me. You're not using anything else. That's, you know, I'm a cisgender person. And I have, like, we all have pronouns. We all have pronouns. That's a lie. There are people who don't use pronouns and may just use their name. But we know pronouns, and all cisgender people predominantly use a set of pronouns. So it's like, it's applicable to us. Like, we're not left out of this conversation. We're not left out of this I don't want to say experience, because the trans experience is very, very, very different. Being misgendered as a trans person is much more violent and much more dangerous. I think what I'm getting at is that like, cis people are not exempt from experiencing transphobia, and we're not exempt from some of the things that apply to only trans people, because again, pronouns don't just apply to trans people. Misgendering does not just apply to trans people. Serena Williams and Megan Thee Stallion are often misgendered a lot. Like, they're misgendered a lot, and very intentionally, and that's very violent, and that's related to transphobia. Like, or that is transphobia. It is transphobia to intentionally misgender, like calling them men. That is horrible. Like, it happened with Sierra too. In the that rumor that she was intersex, which is the updated and appropriate term for what was used at the time, hermaphrodite. I was in like seventh grade when that rumor came out, because she had big feet and she was tall. Like, all of this stuff is connected, and that's how I like not live my life, but that's how I see life a lot, is that everything's connected. I made another video about Abigail attacking Ijoma in Victoria's Secret, and how that's connected to a whole bunch of stuff. And this conversation about body modification and gender affirming surgery, like, all of this is connected. We're all connected in some way, and not to be like, we're all connected, but it is. There is no isolation in anything. And I think once there's this, I can't even formulate the words to make it make sense, but like, once it just seems like there's a very unspoken or even spoken, you know, some cis people are super intentionally transphobic, to the point of like trans people not existing, you know, to violence. But there's this intent on like, we are not the same, we are very different, like that they're other, like cis. But that's what privilege is, that the privileged identity is the default, and everything else is a variation or abnormality or just some special case. And that's not true. It's all here. Like, if we got a bunch of bottles of water, nope, not going to do that, because some bottles of water are trash. If we have like a pack of pencils, You know what? I can't even think of, I can't think of anything, but like we got paper. There's different paper, but it's all paper. And I'm not trying to, oh, we're all humans and we all should be equal. Like that's not where I'm going, but it's like, it's not that much of a, it's not that big of a gap of a separation than history and society has made it. And that's something that I came to like that conclusion lately as I talk about pronouns more and more, because I'm like, oh, you know, I'm Ebony, I use she, her pronouns, and they're not preferred. Like, don't use he, him pronouns for me. And it happens to me sometimes. I mean, I'll be out like, but you know, I just have my short hair and we've been wearing masks for about like 18 months or whatever. And I'll just have on a hoodie and sweatpants, and somebody I guess could think I'm like a 16-year-old boy. I don't know. That's a joke about me looking young. But I've been called sir, or like, yeah, that's his, he's in line. And then I'll just turn around and I guess something looks feminine on me from here up. I don't know. Or they'll see I have a purse, although that doesn't mean I'm a woman. Because something looks feminine on me doesn't mean like that automatically means I'm a woman. Like I could very much be non-binary, or I could be a man who just happens to have this part of my face look very feminine and I'm carrying a purse. Like, and that's a whole nother conversation. We can't make assumptions about people based on what we see. Like, that's not, I mean, and that's what misgendering is sometimes. Like in that kind of experience, that is misgendering. Because you're not, that's the wrong gender reference to me. But again, me being misgendered is nowhere near the impact of trans people being misgendered, especially Black trans women and femmes. Like, it's inherently violent. I mean, the intentional misgendering of people like Megan Thee Stallion, Serena Williams, and Ciara, that is horrible and it's transphobic and it's intentional, and that's dangerous. And it's dehumanizing. Ultimately, it's dehumanizing, where it's just like these people are seen as less than, or again, when we're looking at privileged identities and we're talking about cisgender people specifically as like the default, and it's like anything that's branched off or different than that is less than, and it's dehumanizing, and therefore doesn't warrant protection, doesn't warrant rights, doesn't warrant laws like that protect them. In fact, there are this year, I want to say 2021, or within the last year and a half, this has been the most amount of anti-trans bills that have been introduced and passed in the United States history. I mean, the United States is not that old, but like intentionally targeting trans girls in sports. Like, the fear is not a real thing. First they did bathrooms, and then they're doing sports, and now they're going to do healthcare and all that. Like, it's like all of that is connected. When we're sitting there misgendering people like Serena Williams or even Laverne Cox, who is a trans woman, like that leads to trans people being murdered, anti-trans bills being introduced to like not let people go to the bathroom that feels best for them, which would be a gender affirming action. Like, I use a women's restroom or men's restroom, or an all gender inclusive restroom, because that feels more affirming to my gender experience. Like it's just, yeah, I mean, those are just, again, like just a stream of consciousness of thoughts about that. But like, and another thing, just real quick, like trans children, like specifically talking about trans girls in sports and stuff like that, like it's not a real thing. Oh, it's happening to Black women right now in the Olympics, where, you know, they may have higher levels of testosterone. I'm gonna have to cut this video shorter. I mean, it's almost like 15 minutes, but Black cisgender women whose testosterone levels or some hormonal levels are a little higher than what is considered female, which is not a real thing. There are so many ways that people's bodies exist. There are not just two biological sexes or just sexes. There's several of them. And I don't know, I think there's like 6, but it's happening to Black women right now. Black cisgender women are experiencing transphobia, and it's paired with racism. So looking at trans misogynoir, like all this stuff is connected, y'all. Like, this stuff is not not isolated incidents, but those are just my thoughts about that sparked from that short thread. And I'm definitely probably going to make another video talking about gender because it's really interesting, and I'm also understanding and learning things as I go. So that's it. Raging Black Girl.